Good morning. I'd like to call to order the Urban Planning Committee meeting of March 2nd, 2021. We'll begin this morning with a land acknowledgement. We begin by acknowledging the traditional land on which we are gathered today, which is Treaty 6 territory. And I would like to acknowledge the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory for centuries, such as the Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Nakota Sioux, as well as Métis and Inuit. So together we call on our collective honor, traditions, and spirits to do great work for the city today. With that, I'm going to call on roll call. Councillor Banga.
Present. Madam Chair, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Councillor Katarina.
Good morning.
Good morning. Councillor Henderson.
I am here. Good morning.
Good morning. Mayor Iveson. I don't see him at this moment. He's always welcome. And other councillors joining us. I believe I see Councillor Knack. Good morning.
Good morning.
And Councillor Cartmel.
Good morning.
Anyone else joining us today?
Morning, Madam Chair. Councillor McKean here.
Good morning, sir. Well, it looks like we have enough to get going, so that's wonderful. If I could have a motion, Councillor Banga, for the adoption of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I move that the March 2nd, 2021 Urban Planning Committee meeting agenda be adopted with the following changes. That's replacement pages on item 6.3, bylaw 19518, amendment to the traffic bylaw 5590.
Thank you, sir. Any questions at this point on the agenda? Seeing none, please vote. Do we have all the votes?
Yes, we do, Madam Chair.
Please display the vote. And that is carried. I need approval of the minutes of February 16th.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Any other errors or omissions on them? Hearing none, I will call the vote. Please vote on the approval of the minutes.
And all of the votes are in.
And display the vote. And that too is carried unanimously. Thank you. We have no protocol items that I'm aware of this morning. So we're at the item to select items for debate. Is the speaker's list activated? Councillor Banga?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like to select 6.1 and 6.2, please.
Thank you. And I have a question under 5.1, so I'm going to select that one. Could I have a motion to move all others, which is 6.3?
So moved. I'll move 6.3.
Thank you. Please vote.
And all of the votes are in.
And display the vote.
Yes or a no?
Yes, I do hear we have guests this morning. Thank you. We welcome everyone. We're an inclusive group. And that vote is carried unanimously. Thank you. We have no request to speak, no request for time specific. Are there any councillor inquiries? See none, then we might as well get right at it. And we'll start with 5.1, and I have a question. This is proposed to go to a revised due date of June 15th, 2021. And my question is, does that give you enough time to use for this season, or does that push that discussion into another season?
Councillor, Madam Chair, we do have some bodies of work that are already underway that would be incorporated. We did provide a memo to council yesterday updating council in regards to what the turf program would look like starting out this year. This deferral is to allow us to coincide with the work under the Reimagine work. So when we bring back the Reimagine work, this is one of the bodies of work that would be included in that.
So it's not really going to impact this year because you have that plan in place?
Correct.
All right, thank you. Those were all my questions on that item. So I don't see anyone else. So with that, I'm happy to move that revised due date. Please vote.
Madam Chair, I'm a yes. It's still spinning.
Yeah, I'm having the same trouble.
Yes,
I'm a yes as well.
thank you. And all of the votes are in?
And there we go, and that's carried unanimously. Thank you. We are now at item 6.1, and we'll go ahead with the presentation.
Thank you. Administration is here to present the results of a spatial analysis undertaken in response to the City Council motion from September 2020. Today we have with us Kent Schneider, who's our new branch manager of Planning and Environment Services. He's joined us from the City of Medicine Hat, where he was the general manager of Planning and Development, and prior to that he spent over 10 years in the private sector, so welcome Kent. We also have with us Lindsay Butterfield, who's the Director of Urban Growth and Open Space Strategy, who's going to provide an overview of the results. And on the line we have Suzanne Young, the Director of Open Space Planning and Design, and Paul Foster, the General Supervisor of the Open Space Strategy, to answer questions. Over to you, Lindsay.
Thank you, Stephanie. Development of an open space system that meets the needs of Edmontonians is crucial to implement the big moves of greener as we grow and a community of communities identified in the city plan. The information covered in this report relates directly to district planning and the growth management framework. An equitable distribution of investment in quality parks across Edmonton is essential to the successful implementation of the district network approach that is at the core of the city plan. The need for thoughtful and targeted investment in order to increase and improve amenities in Edmonton's neighborhoods as populations continue to grow is a critical component of the growth management framework. Council makes all major funding decisions for park development and guides the pace of it to bring the city's network of park spaces online for enjoyment. The information presented today will be further assessed as part of an update to the capital investment outlook and used to inform budget recommendations in support of park development as part of the next capital budget cycle. Priorities in the forthcoming capital investment outlook will align with the city plan, and administration will apply a growth management focus to the priority-based budget process to ensure that development funding supports the goals and objectives of the city plan. Administration was asked to report to committee on a number of aspects of parks that are planned for in our statutory documents, but have not yet been completed. We undertook an analysis on the status of parks, future plans for any unfunded parks across the city, information on the status of land acquisitions, how long residents have lived in an area with an incomplete park, the status of funding, and timelines for design and construction. Each aspect is mapped in the attachments to the council report, and I will review them now. Most of the city's parkland is assembled through municipal reserve dedication at the time of subdivision. Any land that cannot be fully assembled through subdivision, which is often the case with district parks or school and community parks, or sometimes significant natural areas, will be purchased. The funds in lieu of reserve account and the natural areas reserve fund are available for this purpose. The process can be complex and lengthy since land assembly is contingent on market forces, on servicing considerations, and development industry decisions, which impact the pace of subdivision and the timing for land acquisition by the city. At present, there are 78 approved area structure and neighborhood structure plans, as well as redevelopment plans that contain undeveloped park sites. This includes 265 parks that are actively being assembled through the development process. Each dot on the map here represents one of those parks. You can see at a glance that the sites are primarily located in newer neighborhoods. Across the city, there are 88 parks that have been fully assembled but are not yet developed. Again, each of those sites is represented on the map by a dot, and the pattern demonstrates that those are located primarily around Anthony Henday Drive in newer areas of the city. The combined total for parks being assembled or assembled but undeveloped is 353 sites, and those sites comprise around 1,114 hectares of parkland across the city. Administration completed a spatial analysis of residential areas that have had at least one undeveloped park since the first subdivision within a given neighborhood. This map illustrates the connection between land development and the time frame to complete parkland assembly and secure park development funding. Neighborhoods with undeveloped parks are dispersed across Edmonton's developing areas. This is consistent with the geographic patterns in land development seen throughout the city over the last 15 years that saw significant development in neighborhoods abutting Anthony Henday Drive. Many of these neighborhoods continue to develop, and acquisition of parkland continues through the subdivision process. 9 sites are identified with the longest time since subdivision, so that's the 20 to 25 year category you see. Of these, there are 6 small pocket parks, 1 urban village site, and 2 school park sites, one of which is a mostly developed park where the final subdivision and assembly of 0.6 hectares has been delayed by a non-participating landowner. These examples illustrate the sometimes discontinuous nature of land development, which affects administration's ability to finalize land assembly and place park sites into the queue for base-level development, design, and construction. In neighborhoods where administration has to purchase land, particularly in areas with multiple or non-participating landowners, the timelines for land assembly and development are often extended. I will note that administration will not normally recommend a park site as a priority for development if land assembly is incomplete. The exception to this practice is for school and district sites, since the city strives to meet its obligations under the joint use agreement with our school board partners. Budget requests are submitted for park construction once the land for a park is acquired by the city. Historically, land assembly has outpaced the funds available to undertake park development. The 10-year capital investment outlook prepared for the 2019 to 2022 capital budget estimated that about $380 million would be required for 214 new or redeveloping parks, and that includes 8 district parks, 33 natural areas, 104 pocket parks, 29 school park sites, 24 urban village parks, and 16 park upgrades in line with approved area redevelopment plans. The prioritization of new parks always represents a careful balance of competing needs and emerging issues. Approximately $17.2 million is allocated for new park development during the current 2019 to 2022 capital budget cycle. It's very important to note that the areas identified as missing a park are not always without any park services. Particularly in newer developing areas, there is a focus on natural area preservation to maintain ecological function, which means that wetlands and tree stands are retained and part of neighborhood landscapes. Many of the parks that are assembled but labeled as undeveloped represent publicly available passive recreation areas, and many of these undeveloped parks are graded, seeded, and available for passive use by residents. I'll pass it now to Kent Snyder to continue.
Good morning. Open space is important, and its equitable distribution for residents is a key component of the city plan. To continue to address the open space needs of Edmontonians, administration will undertake the following steps. Firstly, additional work on prioritization to inform the 10-year capital investment outlook will commence this year as part of the next 4-year capital budget cycle. Priorities will be updated to align with the city plan. Additionally, the shared park development program through which the city partners with industry to develop park sites will continue. As detailed in the report before you, this program has been useful in reducing the park development funding deficit, and administration continues to work with the private sector on expanding this program. The city plan sets out clear growth priorities that will balance investments in renewal and growth projects in both existing and new neighborhoods. In line with this, administration will apply a growth management lens to the priority-based budget process. This work will be grounded in the district planning projects, which will enable an enhanced knowledge of the tie between new growth and the need to develop infrastructure like parks, and provide guidance in where best to align investment with anticipated populations. The district plan process will provide a better understanding of service, amenity, and infrastructure gaps related to growth. This work is underway and will be reported back to Council regularly. Administration is available to address questions, and thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Banga, you selected this item. Would you like to start with questions, sir?
Sure, I can. If somebody more eager than I am, then they're more than welcome.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Just a few questions. I know after reading through the report that new park development is done through pay-as-you-go or MSI. First of all, how does pay-as-you-go works in the older established areas?
Councillor Banga, what would happen is through the budget process, the priority projects would be identified for funding for council, and then finance would assign the appropriate funding source associated with that, which could be pay-as-you-go and or MSI.
Okay, and again, the priority, how do we say that Park A should be prioritized over another park in another area of the town?
Yeah, it's a great question, Councillor Banga. We have a process that we're working on for priority-based budgeting for the next capital budget cycle, 2023 to 2027. And part of priority-based budgeting will make sure that there's a tie between the city plan and the budget processes. But I'll let the team speak to our current processes about what we've done in the past and how we got to where we're at.
Sure, and I'll ask Paul Foster to address that because he's been very involved in that.
Thanks, Lindsay, and thank you, Councillor, for the question. Historically, when we've prioritized our park developments, it's based on a number of factors. One, how long has the community lived there without park space? What is their need? Are there competing interests or interests from our partners, such as the school boards? Is there a school being built? Do we need to prioritize some park infrastructure around that? Is there community interest to advance community-based projects within the neighborhood? And once again, just is there sufficient park space within the community at the present time to address the needs of the community? And all those factors go into creating what is the last take on this, which was our capital investment outlook. And we use that to prioritize park spaces, all those park spaces identified within the report.
Okay, and also when the land is purchased through funds in lieu, how does, if it's owned by the city, that area, I don't know if that might be the case at times, but how does that work? Do we pay somebody for, like, or we shift money from department to department?
So if the land is privately held, then yes, the city would use the funds in lieu of reserve or the appropriate reserve account, because we have a few, to purchase the land. If it's already municipally owned, then we would just bring it into our inventory. And so that's just a paperwork exercise to make sure that we're accounting for it within the parks network.
Okay. So in some areas, I know you're going to be working on the future there. In some areas, there is, especially in the outlying areas, the parks are, and there's a big amount of dirt sitting in the middle of the neighborhood, and the wind is blowing all the dirt into the homes. And did that had anything to do with the development of the park sooner than the others in the past?
Paul, can you address that?
Yeah, I think where we're getting at is there's a lot of parks that have been assembled either through dedication or land acquisition. And we do our best with industry to at least try and get those spaces usable for passive space, grade level and seeded. Quite often there's large park spaces and the developers in the area may not be within their plans to do that, and they become open fields that where the land has been assembled, and then we go through our processes to try and develop these spaces. And often they are open fields, undeveloped, until such time as we have a funding strategy put forth to go in and develop these spaces.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Banga. I have a few questions as well, because I think you mentioned that we're trying to address them equitably, but when I look on attachment 3, and I'm focusing right now on the northwest where there's a larger number of red spots where residents have lived without parks. And I'm getting a lot of calls from the Alban area, and their challenge is the land hasn't been assembled yet. So how do we factor that areas where we haven't been able to assemble the land, though they've lived there a long time, and how do we create an equitable world for them? The concern I get is I get calls all the time because I've lived there a long time. No one's ever given me a green space, and now we have COVID, and where am I going to go?
Yeah, I completely understand, Councillor. I think the challenge we do have is where we don't have land assembled and the ability to move forward. It hasn't generally been practiced to develop a portion of a park, although it could be something that gets looked at related to need. I think through a district planning process, one of the priorities will be to identify where there are gaps in infrastructure of all kinds, but parks being certainly one of those categories that we look at. And from there, we'll have a better ability to pinpoint areas that do have gaps that need addressing.
So what is going to get them to the top of the list? Is it the population? Is it new residents? Is it availability of land? Like, what can we do to help them? I look at these red areas and I feel for them, I understand, but I'm not sure that the new process, how that's going to address that.
Well, the new process will address it in terms of we'll have, I think, better data available in terms of the gaps. I'd like to maybe ask Suzanne Young from IIS to maybe highlight how parks make it to the top of the list as the other part of your question.
Ultimately, thank you, Lindsay and Councillor Esslinger. We work with UFCSD on that prioritization, and so if there are, to Paul's point, if we look at the priorities and we identify them, and it gets debated through council, that's ultimately the process for how we prioritize them, and we execute based on those priorities.
Will we, as part of this new look, consider areas where we have unassembled land, although we haven't typically wanted to develop some of the land because it's not fully assembled, but if we factor in how long many of them have waited, can we not consider maybe we have a new strategy for those particular ones?
Potentially, Councillor, if that was the will of committee and council. What we have done in the past is the very first gate is that the land is assembled in the area, and then the park is considered through the lenses that Mr. Foster suggested for the capital budget process.
I understand that. I was just wondering if we were looking at it on an equity basis, if we might come up with different ideas. Particularly, we've hit these challenges in assembling the land in some of these areas that have waited a very, very long time. Do we need a motion to do that? Or is that going to be part of your new look?
We would need a motion, Councillor, to take a look at that in terms of parks that are partially assembled as part of the process.
Okay, I'll create something on that. Well, we have a few more questions for you. I'll go now to Councillor Henderson.
Well, just I'm interested in how this discussion connects with the discussion the executive committee meeting had yesterday, because it seems to me there's some pretty strong linkages here, and you know, understanding. I mean, I don't understand the full complexity of this. It's not something I deal with in my ward, you know, which was developed decades ago. So I'm just wondering how we deal with that question of winners and losers, how we deal with that question if we're not going to use other tools, how we make decisions based on city building. I think there's probably questions of responsibility here. I'm interested by the fact that some of the developers are prepared to step up, but that may create some inequities as well and may not necessarily fit with what's in the larger city's best interest, and how we deal with, you know, obviously we need policy around that. And I'm just wondering how we deal with that question and what tools we can use. Because I think the point that was made yesterday is we have a tool, which is spending money in order to drive city planning, and how we do, and where and what that looks like. I think is something we're going to have to be. I think the message yesterday is we're going to have to be a bit more rigorous about. So thoughts on that?
Yeah, Councillor Henderson, great question and great linkage to yesterday's conversation about tax policy. And this is ultimately a question of growth management framework, and not to put everything on that framework, but the idea with the work that we're doing there is to create the rigor around what is needed at a district level for each of the districts in terms of all of the infrastructure, and then ultimately how is it paid for. And so that we can bring that rigor into our planning processes, and we can bring that rigor into our budgeting processes, so that council has some more robust information when you see something like a land development application as an example, and or when you see the capital budget prioritization, that you've got that stronger link to city building and the type of city that city plan envisions that we create.
And then to ask it sort of much tougher question in a way, it just following up on Councillor Essinger's question, I'm guessing, you know, that part of the assembly problem will be, you know, just I'm thinking back to the discussion we had around Dakota last week at public hearing, that anybody sitting on a piece of property that is mostly slated for parkland as opposed to development is going to have less interest in selling. And you know, and that may be part of the impediment for us, that some of these, you know, how that plays out. I mean, we do have another tool on this. It seems pretty draconian, but I think we could use expropriation. If we have, you know, we have areas that are just stuck. I say that with great hesitancy because we've also committed to landowners that they would never be obliged to participate. But at what point, if it's important enough, do we begin to weigh in with some other tools?
Councillor Henderson, definitely a challenging question, and it's not administration's recommendation at this point.
No,
that we would
I
use,
understand all the reasons not to do it. I just thought if we get stuck, at what point do we have to find a different solution?
I think if there was a motion passed today, if you had a desire to look at that, but the motion that may be passed today that Councillor Esslinger suggested about looking at where we've got partially assembled parks and starting to fill the gaps with that partial assembly area might be a good first step. And then if you let administration continue to do the work on the growth management framework and we look at the tools associated with that, and when we bring that back, if it was a will of committee to put that expropriation in the toolbox, then I think that would be the right place to have that discussion. I think it would be, we're not at a point where we have robust enough information to give you on that tool to be able to make a recommendation to committee on using that tool in this space.
Yeah, no, and I don't. I mean, I don't put that on the table with any degree of relish. I think it should be avoided probably at most cost. I just worry a little bit that we end up in situations where where plans may have earmarked land, knowing full well that they were never going to come into play, and that's problematic in a different kind of way. And I don't know how you break that, and maybe there has to be an expectation of upping, of sweetening the pot in those circumstances in order to be able to assemble the land. But how does that sweetening of the pot then get paid for, and who pays for it? Should it be going back to that neighborhood? Should it, at that point, the people that did sell all their land in there are sort of given a free ride. So I'm just curious about it, because I'd be interested to know how many times we're getting stuck in that way, or if this is a common problem, or is it unusual?
I'd have to see if there's somebody on the line from the team who can give some context about how often that happens.
Well, I think we need to go back and take another look at the specifics of the land, but certainly the map that shows you how long it's been since a neighborhood started gives you an idea of the scale of the delays that can take place, but I don't have specifics on non-participating landowners.
Thank you. Councillor
Great,
Knapp.
thanks.
Councillor Knack?
Sorry, thank you. I thought for some reason Councillor Katarina was...
My apologies.
Anyway,
You're correct. I did not see Councillor Katarina from the committee. So let's go to him first. My apologies, Councillor Katarina.
That's okay. Thank you. So, Ms. McCabe, I mean, this is pretty complex, and we're looking way out with the number of unfinished projects. So you mentioned MSI is one form of funding and pay as you go. So has your thinking changed somewhat? Have you calculated, and I know it's recent as of last week with reduction in MSI in the next cycle, in the next 4-year cycle, and putting into context, you need 300 plus millions for this, and have only 17 allocated for it for this this round of budgeting. So what's the thinking on that? How is that going to affect the plan going forward, or your planning?
I mean, it'll ultimately depend on how the MSI dollars get prioritized through the budget process and how much the kind of parks area receives to fill those gaps. But Councillor, you're correct, with the reduction in MSI means that there's less money to potentially put to all city priorities, which would most likely impact park development as well.
Yeah, and I would think that, I mean, if we're, I shouldn't maybe assume that, but I would imagine that we have so many other projects that we're going to have to make a decision on whether we go ahead or don't go ahead. And this is just now another one that I think puts it behind a little bit in the assembly of park space going forward. So outside of those two options on how to pay for this, those are the only two that we are considering or can consider at this point.
Well, we've also had a lot of success with our shared park development program where we partner with industry for building parks in new neighborhoods. So that is a potential for us to continue to look at going forward. And if there's another option about how we could roll that program out in a wider or perhaps different way. But we haven't done that work yet. It is something that we could further explore.
Yeah, I think with the partnership, I mean, development industry does things that will affect the sale of their properties, and certainly parks is an amenity that they would include in their, sort of marketing campaign. Other things that we do. So, is there a thought or looking at some sort of incentive for them to include amenities like parks or share that cost? Because at the end of the day, if you have a park close by, it's a feature that they could use for their marketing. If you don't, well then obviously, I mean, that kind of conversation that if they participate, that they would get some sort of incentive to work with us on this.
Yeah, Councillor Katarina, it's definitely a great idea and something we'd be willing to further explore because we've seen such success in the shared park development program. The program is fully funded until the end of 2022, but we will be looking at what an ask is for the next capital budget cycle associated with that program.
Okay, and all the mapping that you've shown here, I mean, the concentration of where the big gaps are, obviously, is around the Henday and the new neighborhoods and that. So compare that just quickly with what's the plan for inside the Henday, and as you get closer to the center of the city. Have you identified shortfalls there, gaps there, where we need to consider as well, or they don't exist? Because I'm sure they do, but I didn't see much as far as anything in the center of the city or inside the ring.
That's a good question. You're right. There probably are gaps that exist in the center of the city. That is the work that we need to complete through the district plans, and then some excellent ideas today as well about what we can look at with the growth management framework and the types of tools and incentives we can offer. So this is all work that's underway, and hearing what I'm hearing, it sounds like we're on a path to do better once we implement those major pieces of the city plan.
Okay, because a lot of this now, I mean, we want to provide this type of space for the suburbs, yet we want people to come into the core of the city. So we're providing things that we might want to maybe discourage. I don't know. It just seems like it's pretty complicated at this point. Thank you. That's yeah, I didn't need an answer.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Katarina. And we'll go back to Councillor Knack.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe just to quickly pick up on that, I want to double check. The work through Breathe is what helped identify a lot of the gaps in the mature neighborhoods, because I know, like, we've even identified gaps in some of the neighborhoods in the ward I represent. So I think some of that work already exists through Breathe, doesn't it?
Yes, Councillor Knack, we have done that work through Breathe.
Okay, great. And then one last piece on that. I think probably the difference that might exist is that there is, during our last capital budget, we did approve capital profile for land acquisition, albeit it was a small budget, but it was a budget nevertheless for land acquisition for parks in our mature communities. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So the final piece is, do we have a status update on that? Because I think this will sort of tie even to this report a bit. I know there were budgets set aside, and some budgets, I think, or some areas that were particularly identified in the capital profile, but I've never actually heard or seen if we've acquired any property to advance what was said in that capital profile.
Councillor Knack, I know there have been challenges associated with that, and perhaps team could provide some more context on that.
Right, so I can give some examples of some park priorities that are in the mature areas of the city. So we have some examples like renewal of Glengarry and Confederation District parks. We also have projects like Touch the Water and the Warehouse District Park. So there are a few examples of things that are happening and that we are investing in. Maybe you could repeat the other piece of the question.
Maybe, you know what, I'm probably straying slightly from the report because it was about unfunded, and that's a funded profile, so I'll follow up separately on that. I just wanted to see if I could close the loop on that other series of questions. I think the only other question I still have relates to that shared park development program you were just talking about with Councillor Katarina. Is the funding the only barrier for further advancement of that work? So I was hearing that it sounded like there were potentially some roadblocks to that. And is it just the funding piece?
Yeah, so I'll let Paul chime in as well here, but I'll just start off that the program has been very successful. It's I think of benefit because we do get park development completed faster, and it's a benefit to developers as well because it lessens the letter of credit or guarantees that they have to offer at the start of a neighborhood. So it's been quite popular and it's fully subscribed, so we don't actually have more room in the program right now to allow additional parks to be funded through that. Maybe I'll let Paul add anything.
Yeah, hi, Councillor. In regards to that profile, we have had good uptake in it. But once again, it's dependent on private industry wanting to enter the program, wanting to provide those amenities for individuals. And then we seek to look at how we can partner in achieving those goals. So there does need to be that second component of developers. Right now, as Lindsay's mentioned, the program is fully subscribed. But we haven't received any inquiries of advancing another profile whereby we've said we don't have the funding. Our intention would be to evaluate the program through the capital budget process and that priority-based budgeting that has been discussed and bring forward potential continuation of the program if that's the wish of council.
Okay, great. Those are all my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Banga.
Yeah, sorry, I got a couple more questions. The first one, I think it's probably been partially answered, is basically in the newly developing areas of the city. In the case of a non-participating landowner, property owner, how do we deal with that? Like, what are the steps we need to take?
In terms of negotiating with landowners?
Yeah, well, like, what steps we take to first get them involved, and then if they don't want to do it, then I guess there are further avenues, and what are those?
Right, so non-participating landowners are generally identified at the top planning stage, so your area structure plan or your neighborhood structure plan. The plan comes to council, and I might be speaking out of turn because I'm not in development services, so I don't want to. Oh, Kim is on the line. Okay, so maybe Kim can talk about the process when plans come in and how parks are determined through that.
Sure. Good morning, Councillor Banga. So if there is a non-participating landowner that is identified at the neighborhood structure plan, the neighborhood structure plan still identifies park and open space. At the time that the non-participating landowner either sells or looks to develop their property, municipal reserve and dedication of that park space is triggered at the subdivision stage.
Okay. And then I got another question about pocket parks. Are those parks also done at the subdivision stage, or are they done later on to by the developers to attract, I guess, further customers?
Well, the type of park, including pocket parks, would be something that the developer considers as part of their marketing and the type of neighborhood they're looking to develop. But that would be also identified through the subdivision stage, yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Banga. And I just wanted to, I don't have further questions. I just really wanted to do that motion, really about where we could explore options for park development, particularly where the partial land assemblies happened. Because I think the factor that some of them are waiting 20, 25 years, there's some barriers in place that maybe we need to look at. Maybe in that case, do something a little bit different. Madam Clerk, do we have some wording?
We do have some wording. I'm just putting that together.
Okay, just give you a moment. Unfortunately, there is some challenges in some of these areas that have waited a very long time, and it's not happening. So I would move that the administration explore options for park development where partial land assembly has happened and provide a report to committee. I'll just check. Ms. McCabe, does that kind of get to the heart of what, I think some areas we've had some land assembly, we have some obstacles. We just need to look at some options for some of those. We know that we may never get that land for another 10 years. Will this allow us to consider something different?
It will. I'm just connecting with Lindsay about when we could come back to you with that information. We could return with that report in Q3.
Okay, so that's great. Q3 for return date. And I'll just speak to it. You know, I know that I have a community that's waited a very long time and very frustrated, but there's a land assembly obstacle for them. And every time they say when it's happening, we could say we haven't assembled the land. But we might have to get creative and look at some options here. I think some of the plans that we're talking about today, I've begun to address this as we build out and we look into the future. But we have some of these old pieces that we need to deal with too. We may need to get creative. So that's why I'm suggesting this. Any questions on that? If not, I'll call the question. Please vote. Ready, Madam Clerk, display the vote.
I'm sorry, I don't have it yet. Yes, I'm sorry, we're just waiting for Councillor Katarina's vote.
Councillor Katarina?
Yeah, it's still spinning, but yes.
Thank you. All the votes are in.
And display the vote, and that is carried. So that'll take care of item 6.1. So now we're going to move towards 6.2. And we'll just have our administration do a bit of a switch here for just a moment. Please bear with us. Thank you. And when you're ready, Mr. Seabrook, if you want to make some opening comments or turn it to someone else, I'm not sure.
Good morning, Madam Chair, committee members, members of council. So this morning we do have our report on community traffic safety infrastructure, alternative funding opportunities, and have prepared the report in response to the motion. And with that, we also have some discussion around the path forward for 2021 as well as beyond. We do have a number of staff on the line, Mr. Brian Simpson, the Branch Manager, Parks and Road Services, Ms. Jessica Lamar, our Director of Mobility Safety, as well as other folks to support from IAS as well as Traffic Field Operations. So we don't have a formal report. We do have the opportunity to answer any questions that you or members of committee and council may have.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Banga selected this item, so I will go to him. Councillor Banga.
Thank you. So we just understand this properly. So let's say a group of citizens from one area, they want certain traffic measures to be deployed in their area. What is the procedure for them to go ahead and do it?
So, Councillor, we are just in the process of building that system out, and I'll ask Ms. Lamar to provide a little bit of detail as to where we're at for this year as well as going forward into 2022 and beyond.
Thanks, Gord. Councillor Banga, we are just in the process of getting ready to roll out Vision Zero Street Labs, which is the neighborhood traffic safety program as a result of the Safe Mobility Strategy. This is the program that's looking at temporary adaptable traffic calming that we're able to pilot and try new things in a new way. That will be ready to go for this spring for the public to start telling us that they're interested in participating, for us to support some co-creation of plans in their areas to get pieces on street for this summer. And so this will be our first year of trying that out. And of course, we'll work through that process with the public and evaluate it and report back to you folks on how that went. And so that we can continue to strengthen that moving forward into the future years. But of course, we do think that when those projects are successful, and that community may have questions for us around repeating it in future years or looking for a path to permanence. And so the report in front of you today says that we'll have to take a look at how that goes. We're not sure what will come of the experience of trying this with this summer. And that's a case-by-case basis, trying to identify what the best path forward is to support that work.
Okay, so as far as timelines are concerned, would we be able to implement some of those measures this summer, that coming summer?
Absolutely. We anticipate having opportunities for the public to start being in touch with us, roll out in the next month, so that work can get underway in order to get pieces on street for this summer.
Okay, and could you be able to give me an example of a street lab? Like, it sounds like a lab, but if you could tell me like what it is, because when we tell people and they ask us, what lab are you talking about?
Of course, and important to note that we will be providing you folks with a full update on the program, some messaging that you can share as well with citizens and give you all of the tools you need to help folks navigate to the right place. But a street lab essentially is a citizen or a group of citizens who identify concerns with safety and livability based on moving around in their community. We take a look at the location together and try and think of what kinds of measures we can put in place to address that. We will be putting forward what we're calling some feature labs, so some example scenarios that folks may wish to consider. That would be, for example, we could explore a shared street on a certain stretch of road. We could look at a painted crosswalk. We could look at using temporary curb extensions to make a crossing safer, maybe even creating a parklet, again, sort of narrowing down some space in an area and creating a space to activate within that community. There's lots of room to be creative and to think with communities as well, but we wanted to give some examples that might be easier for folks to envision, to think about approaches to problems in their area.
Okay, so from this understanding, I would think that there would be a plenty of ideas, spectrum of ideas coming forward. And do we have anything in regards to uniformity through the city that is that may be required to for people to understand that these are the things to do this? I know each area is different, but anyway, comments on, please.
I think you're right. The balance is really important here. Each area is unique and has its own ideas and challenges and goals. But at the same time, we do need some consistency in the way we do things. So the process does carefully take that into account. And while each area may come up with its own unique approach in terms of, for example, how it wants to animate a space, we will need to make sure, for example, that materials they might want to use on the road are safe. And so there will be a process to go through to make sure we check all those boxes. And in the process of trying things new, make sure that we don't create any safety issues as a result.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of questions on this report, because this report isn't about street labs as much. It's about alternative funding options if communities wanted to do something, correct? There's one in here about a local tax levy, and you say, let's not look at that yet. We're going to use street labs and see how that works, correct?
That's correct, Councillor.
My other one is, it talks in here about community fundraising, and you're saying that that could create some challenges, so you didn't want to go there until, if I understand it correctly, until you've had some more experience with street labs. Am I getting that right?
Correct. I think what we want to do is understand where there is opportunity for communities or neighborhoods to do some additional fundraising for some specific enhancements, but we also want to get an understanding of what are the basic elements of safety and livability that should be consistent and distributed in an equitable way. So we just want to understand what that looks like using this year as the rollout year. And then from there, we would have a little bit more detail and information that would guide how this could roll out and connect into programs such as the neighborhood renewal and building great neighborhoods programs.
And I guess that was one of my questions, because if a community has done some temporary measures through the street lab work, in future years when the neighborhood renewal came through, they may be able to make them permanent then. So is that what you're looking at? I'm just wanting to understand.
Correct. So there would be some things that would totally make sense to be part of a neighborhood renewal program, and there are others that perhaps are maybe isolated and not continual that might be best suited by temporary measures. So we want to just get what that understanding looks like, so that when we are going into neighborhoods to engage in regards to neighborhood renewal, that we are providing all of those tools and opportunities in a way that makes sense.
So, and I'm very excited about the street lab opportunity. It's replacing the old traffic calming work, and it's meant to be more collaborative in nature. But what about grants? So say a community has been able to procure some additional dollars, or we're saying we're not going to allow that at this time until we have a bit more experience with the street labs. I just wanted to make sure we have the messaging correct.
So, Councillor, you're exactly right. We do want to understand what that looks like and where perhaps a grant may have a good place to support the program while still allowing equity across. So I guess what we're trying to do is make sure that even some of the maybe the less I'm going to say less privileged areas have the same level of opportunity as some of the others that are maybe more organized or have more opportunity from a financial perspective. Maybe perhaps I'll just ask Ms. Lamar to add a little bit to that.
Councillor Eslinger, I think a couple of important aspects is to remember that the intention is for the Street Lab program to not rely on communities to do any fundraising in order to participate. So all of the standard materials will be provided, but we did investigate opportunities if a community did want to enhance some of those to make them more unique to their space, and that we have some mechanisms to enable that. But I do think on the go forward in a path to permanence way, as Gord mentioned, we want to better understand what that could look like and what the right mechanism is based on the kind of measures in place in each street lab, because they'll be so unique. It's hard to have a set template at this moment for what that could look like.
In my understanding, and I could be wrong, that street labs really are developing temporary measures for communities versus permanent. That would be more a city responsibility, correct?
That's correct.
I guess the thing that niggly in the back of my mind is once we're through the pandemic, and that's sooner than later, we hope, I'm wondering if, if communities, many of them do casinos, if that's something that they would want to apply. And if we had considered, if they had asked about that in the continuum of opportunities, if they could apply that there. Have you explored that at all?
Councillor, we didn't explore the specific example of a casino. In terms of citizen contributions, that is part of what we explored. And I think that is where the equity piece is concerning us the most. And where we do suggest that if there is demand to move to permanent from the temporary approach of street labs, that exploring a city-funded program would help us to do that equitable prioritization in such a way that we wouldn't be relying on folks' ability to procure funding. Even doing it through fundraising requires the ability from a time and resource perspective for people to participate in that. So we have more work to do with that as we progress and see where the interest lies from here.
But I think, just to add, I think the overarching sort of view we're taking is that we want to be flexible, and if there are opportunities, whether that be for fundraising or citizen participation, we want to be open to what that looks like and how it can achieve the ultimate goal of making a more livable city.
Thank you very much. My time is up. I will go to Councillor Knack.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks for this information. When you talked about the sort of the demonstration pieces, I wanted to get a better idea. How are we determining that, and then how does that inform some of the work that will be going on for other communities?
Councillor, I'm not sure I understand the demonstration piece as part of the question.
Sorry, I might have misunderstood. You were talking earlier, I think, in response to Councillor Banga about there will be like demonstration locations where we might have shared streets, where we might have some other measures, and I'm wondering how that process is going to be moving forward.
I think it's a terminology piece. I use the language feature labs, and it really a synonym would be like examples, but conceptually, so that people can understand like what is a shared street, what is a painted crosswalk, what is a curb extension, for example.
Do we see, and I don't know if we'll have the information, this might be more when the budget profile comes forward, but sort of a better understanding of the cost of those various alternatives that do exist. Why I ask that, I'm thinking about, and I didn't want to select 6.3 and talk too much about shared streets, but I do wonder if something like that, particularly in relation to the pandemic still and the need to be likely with physical distancing, I expect for much of this year, if there's an opportunity to expand that beyond what we did for communities that are interested as a sort of a quick way and a low cost way to show people what we're talking about and give people the chance to experience what that would be like.
Councillor, Olga Massini's on the line to speak to the pandemic response piece if you wanted to explore that. But from the Street Labs perspective, that is the exact reason why we've included a shared street as one of the feature labs. We know there's high demand. People were really interested in them from having experienced them last summer. We know that it's one of the less expensive approaches, and it has some it has some well-evaluated impacts for speed reduction on street and for, again, creating that more livable space for people, which are, from our experience with people's concerns in their neighborhoods, some of, the biggest demand that folks have in terms of what they're trying to fix on their street.
Great. Yeah, and this is not the time for the pandemic response piece. As much as I want to talk about it, we'll talk about that tomorrow at 1:30. So I will govern myself accordingly and stop asking questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Knack. Councillor Banga.
Just a couple more questions that they came up as we were discussing. So we are saying these street labs are temporary. What would that really mean?
Councillor, we use the terminology temporary mostly to talk about the materials. So what we're not talking about is major construction on the roadway that will have, the significant cost, planning cycle, and impacts to the space around it. So we're talking about materials that can be placed and taken away without, damaging the roadway, relatively easily moved, for example. Gives us an ability to iterate and try things with the public as well. And then, of course, not all of these pieces can stay up year-round. So there could be a seasonality to some of these because there are impacts with snow and ice control, for example, that would need to be taken into account with temporary materials. So in the materials that'll be available to the public, we'll be very clear about if this kind of street lab, for example, is something that can be year-round or if it's only seasonal. And we'll have a bit of that, that season created so people understand when materials might come in and be taken out.
Okay. And that leads to my next question. So if a community participates in this for this coming summer, do those temporary measures remain in effect, indefinitely, or would they be removed at the end of the summer?
It depends on what the measures were that were going in, and that's something that would be made very clear to the project team and the neighborhood at the start of the project. Some of that also depends on what evaluation criteria that project team sets with the city for determining success for the project. And so, if there's an evaluation point and it's not meeting the goals of the team, then we may make a determination to take those pieces out at that time. But again, because each project's unique, I think we'll be setting all of those parameters at the start of the project so that we can help guide the work moving forward.
Okay. So are there any options for a program similar to a neighborhood development program funding model, where the neighborhood can raise a certain amount of money and the city matches it, or it's completely different?
Councillor, at this point, the Street Labs program in its purview of being temporary is something that would be fully city funded, and that'll come forward for council discussion with the updated Traffic Safety Automated Enforcement Reserve capital profiles at the beginning of April. But I think the question might be more around future potential permanent options, which is what we're trying to outline today. It's hard for us to say specifically what mechanisms we would use, but that we're certainly open to exploring a variety of options, keeping in mind that the equity of safety infrastructure upgrades is of top of mind.
Okay, that's all my questions, and if there are no further questions, I'll move the recommendation.
That's wonderful. You've moved to receive it for information. Seeing no.
Yes.
Okay, seeing no further councillors on the board, I'll call the question on receiving 6-2 for information. Please vote.
Yes.
All of the votes are in.
Thank you. Display the vote. And that is carried unanimously. That completes our agenda for today. I'll just look if there are any notices of motion. Seeing that we have none at this point, I will declare this meeting complete and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and have a great